Okay, ready to go?
Ready to go.
Perfect. So, welcome to our pre-law shadower sessions. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Amanda Garcia, and I'm pleased to have you here today to talk about your legal journey and your experiences with corporate employment, real estate, and immigration law. Before we get started, I'll introduce myself a little bit. So, I'm a fourth year legal studies student at Ontario Tech. I'm the secretary for pre-law shadowers, and I'm hoping to attend law school and be a lawyer one day as well.
Mhm.
And I'm just going to get you to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go into some questions.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. My name is Taman Singh. As you have already said, I am a lawyer. I practice predominantly in the areas of employment law, immigration, real estate, and now a little bit into corporate as well. I practice at a firm called RZCD Law Firm, LLP in Mississauga, Ontario. And I got called January 20, right before the COVID pandemic. So it's been an interesting journey for me so far. And I'm happy to share that journey with everybody that's going to be watching.
Thank you so much. So we'll start a little bit about your education. So what program or courses did you study in your undergrad, and where did you go?
Sure. So my undergrad was a little bit all over the place, if I'm being honest. It was nowhere near the legal field. It was more so in the medical field. I started off, first of all, I went to York University for my undergrad. I started off in the kinesiology science program. Shortly thereafter, I went into and I graduated from the psychology arts program. And it was when I shifted to psychology where I got a little bit of a taste of the legal side of things. And then I decided to pursue law school after that.
Cool. So you've never considered being a lawyer before that. What were you
I
wanting to do?
didn't. I actually was going to become a chiropractor. And then when I realized I didn't want to become a chiropractor, I was going to become a doctor. And
Okay.
after all of that, after realizing I didn't want to go into the medicine side, I ended up pursuing law, and I'm glad I did. Something I do enjoy, which is why I'm doing it now.
Perfect. That's good. It's nice to hear a different journey. Like I not always wanting to be a lawyer since like you were little, so finding
Right.
it later on, right? That's really nice to hear.
Absolutely. And as you know, obviously we evolve as humans. So we pick up on different, strengths, weaknesses, things we like, things we don't like. And that's why, things change along the way.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you.
Nice.
And then so did you have to write the LSAT? So how was the LSAT admission process for you?
Sure. So I went to law school in Australia. I'm not sure how many of your previous speakers have gone to law school in Australia.
I've
I
never
may
heard it. Yeah, when I
never.
saw it,
Okay.
I was so surprised, like really interested to hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I graduated I from my undergrad after 5 years of being there. So I was more so keen, and I went to York University, which means I just like a lot of people lived at home. I didn't live on residence, so I never had that experience of living away from home. So one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Australia was to live away from home and get that experience and grow in that way, right? Because as you may or may not know, when you do live away from home, you learn things about yourself and you grow as a person. So I wanted to do that. I didn't have to write the LSAT. That wasn't one of the requirements. I obviously have other friends and colleagues that did, but I didn't have to. So I didn't write the LSAT. I went straight to law school after my undergrad, and it was probably one of the best decisions I made was to go to Australia.
That's really cool. Like, did you have to do anything to get back here? Like, is like England with a bunch of tests and everything like that?
Right. That's quite correct. So it's the same process as if you would go to England. Australia is also a Commonwealth country. So when you come back here, you have to write the NCA exams, as you may be aware of. So that ranges between 5 and 7. So where I went to in Australia was a university called Bond University. All of the viewers afterwards, make sure you search that university. It's an exceptional university. They had a program whereby they taught Canadian law courses in Australia because there was a huge influx of Canadian students there. So they had Canadian professors, Canadian lawyers teaching there, and a big group of the law community there was Canadians as well. So a lot of what we learned, what we were able to learn was Canadian law. And so then when we came back and we had to write the NCAs, we were already well prepared for that.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll definitely look into that. Like, that's
You
really
should.
interesting. I've been looking at England and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
I'm still not sure. I'm gonna take it here.
So, I mean, let me tell you the difference, right? And this may be a little off topic, but hopefully this can convince you. So, Australia, Bond University is in a place called Gold Coast, right? And Gold Coast is like the equivalent of like Miami in terms of the beaches, in terms of the water and stuff like that, in terms of the warm weather. So just the warm weather in itself was enough of a reason to be there. And it was just very laid back. People enjoy their lives, people have fun there. There's a good work-life balance. So it was very, pleasant for me to be a part of that and see it as well and experience it.
I like that. That's not what you usually hear about law school. Not all
Exactly.
usually don't hear all positive things like that. So it's nice
Yeah,
to hear.
absolutely.
And were there any courses in your undergraduate or your graduate that or your law school that stood out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it's funny enough. So, criminal law is what stood out to me most. Criminal and contractual law is what I said stood out to most. Of course, contractual law is part of what I still do now. Criminal law, because of my interest in what I learned there, and also my undergrad in psychology, I did my articling in criminal law. So I pursued that. I don't practice criminal law anymore, but I did pursue that. And as we'd already discussed before, your steps change and your life changes as it grows to progress. But that was why I pursued articling in crim, and I'm glad I did because I realized it wasn't for me, and then I moved on to something else.
Perfect. Thank you. And then you talked about it a little bit already, but at what point in your life did you decide you wanted to pursue a legal career?
Sure, it's actually interesting because I think it was my father that really pushed me because I was at a crossroads between going to med school and then going to law school, and then I mean I don't know about a lot of people, but I wasn't really okay with being in school for till I'm like, mid 30s, maybe 40s. So I had a passion for public speaking and I had a passion for advocacy. So I decided to pursue law school. But I would say it was towards the end of my undergrad degree when I was really trying to sit down and think about what I wanted to do that I kind of you know, put my foot on the ground and said, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it and we'll see what happens. And I'm glad I did.
Good, perfect. And then, so what field of law do you currently practice in, and what do you like the most about it? So I know you do a couple. Maybe you could
Mhm.
give us a little couple different.
Sure, absolutely. So one of my major areas of practice is employment law. I mean, reason why I enjoy employment law is because I feel like it's a noble area of law. A lot of the cases that I do are wrongful dismissal cases where an employee who has been working, for X amount of years, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to, 2 years, 20 years or so, they get terminated. They unfortunately don't get the severance package that they should be getting. And then we come in as their employment lawyers and try to get them the maximum severance package that they should be entitled to. So as you can appreciate, this would be someone that may or may not be as sophisticated or knowledgeable in terms of the law. And if we're able to, make their life a little bit better by getting them a little bit more compensation for their years of service, that's a very noble thing in my opinion to do. Of course, on the flip end, we do assist employers as well, and those with businesses, whether it's small, medium, or large, and make sure that whatever they're doing is in accordance with the law, right? So we're helping both sides to make sure that people are acting as fairly as possible, and that's why I kind of enjoy it. It is probably one of my favorite areas, and from the four that I do. Um, with respect to real estate law, when you're assisting families to buy or sell their home, it's obviously probably one of the biggest transactions of their life. So you have to make sure that you dot all your I's and you cross all your T's. So it's obviously very detail oriented, and at the end of the day, when I can make that phone call to the client and say, congratulations, your house is sold, or congratulations on your new home, you purchased a new home, they're obviously very happy. So it is, again, kind of that happy feeling that I kind of feed off from my clients as well. Corporate is something I'm still getting into, but again, it's all because it falls hand in hand with the clientele that I have on the employer side. Sometimes they need corporate assistance, and I'm happy to help them there. It just makes sense to do it right. And of course, if I can provide that service and the clients have all the answers that they need from one person, then that's the best. That's the best thing for them, right? In terms of resources and getting the work done that they need to get done. And immigration, I mean, I've been in Canada for a very long time, probably almost my whole life. So if I can assist someone to migrate to Canada or visit Canada or start up a business in Canada, that's just me kind of passing it forward and allowing other people to come to this country.
Perfect. I really, really like that. Like the two bleed into each other, and then you have
Right.
immigration on the side. I feel like I hear a lot about like immigration is something I'm really interested in, And I hear a lot of like immigration lawyers also working in other fields as well. And
Mhm.
they kind of like coincide with each other a bit there,
You're
which is
right.
really interesting as well.
Right,
Um,
absolutely. There are, I mean, a lot of these, most of these areas of practices, they do come together at some point, at some sort of intersection. It's just a matter of how you bring them together. Like for the immigration side of things, there are employers that require immigration lawyers as well, whilst they still require employment lawyers. So again, it's just a matter of providing the best service possible and assistance to your clients.
that's perfect too. It's so hard to find like a lawyer when you find one that has everything in one place.
Well, listen, I'm not suggesting that you should do everything, but
No,
I'm also not suggesting that you should, uh, um, for a lack of a better word, pigeonhole yourself into just one as well, right?
I like that, like not limiting your interests. I think
Right.
it's really important. And then, so is there anything that you dislike about the fields of law?
That's a good question. Well, it's not a dislike per se, but you really have to find and figure out what your work-life balance should be, right? Like because in this area of law, it's very demanding. You're dealing with a lot of clients. You're dealing with obviously assisting people in different problems, so to speak, or different issues or different whatever the representation focuses that they may have. And then when you have multiple clients, you can understand that it can get quite demanding and quite onerous. So it's more so where you want to draw the line between the work-life balance, right? Some people choose to and are happy to work, over 40 hours or 80 hours, whatever they wish to. But some people really draw the line. So as long as you can balance that, that's still something I'm learning how to do now, obviously. But as long as you can balance that, that I would say that's something. I can't call it a dislike, but something very important in this profession that you need to know.
Perfect. I think that's like one of the main, for everybody, one of the main
Yeah,
problems.
absolutely.
Definitely still trying to learn that as a student, never mind as a lawyer.
Well, I mean, if you learn it now as a student, you'll be fine when you come to the stage that I'm in and further.
True. Get it early. Okay. And then what is the typical day in your career like in terms of responsibilities and tasks?
Sure. I mean, in terms of responsibilities and tasks, I'm very reliant on my calendar. Of course, you can imagine that things don't go all the way always the way that you want them to. Tasks may get added on, pushed forward, or brought or delayed or whatever the case may be, but very much so reliant on that. And I kind of have a system as to what's most important to get done on the day of. So I'll do the hardest task or the most onerous task right in the beginning of the day. I'll schedule times off where I'm checking emails, some different slots, because if you don't, then you'll just be checking emails all day. And then I obviously make calls for room for clients when they want to reach me, when I want to speak to clients and such, and always leave some sort of room in between, just as a little cushion, right, in case something urgent happens or something else needs to get done. So usually, wake up in the morning, try to have breakfast, but usually not never the case. Come to the office, work, and before you know it, the day's over, and then you just you get a workout in, and then you prepare for the next day.
A lot of prioritization.
A
Like,
lot of prioritization.
yeah, I know like small tasks take like sometimes way longer than you're expecting, especially emails. Like that's my biggest problem with
Absolutely.
like my job right now. I'm like, I could just answer these emails all day.
Absolutely.
And sometimes that's what I just like, I'd rather just answer these.
And you know what, like I mean, I'm a big a believer in like working smarter and really um trying to streamline the way you work. So a suggestion I can have for you, something that I do, is there's specific times in the day where I check my emails, unless it's like super urgent and I'm desperately waiting for something to hit my inbox. Because as you said, you can end up sending emails and replying to emails every minute of the day. So if you do that, then you allow yourself to focus on other things that need to be done as well, right? Because if not, you're going to get stuck in your inbox.
Yeah, thank you for that.
No worries.
And you answered this a bit already as well, but what is a typical client at your firm like?
Sure. And I mean, we deal with clients of all natures. I can't say there's a typical client. We deal with client with, whatever level of sophistication, whatever level of education, wherever they may be in life, whatever age. We don't limit ourselves to a specific clientele, of course. So that is a difficult question to ask, but obviously our doors are open to anyone that needs some sort of a legal help or assistance.
Perfect. Thank you. And then what kinds of cases do you most commonly have? And are there any cases that stood out to you the most? So I know you can't really go into detail about many of
Mhm.
the cases, but if you have any examples or anything like that.
Sure. I mean, the most predominant amount of types of cases that I deal with are wrongful dismissal cases because that's what employment law is one of my major areas of focus. Um, and I mean, recently over COVID, which is common for us employment lawyers to know, there have been a large amounts of terminations, like employees being terminated, and for the most part, they may or may not have received the severance they deserve. So it's just like I said, going back to what I said earlier, us just getting them the most amount of compensation as possible. Sometimes, they may not have received anything for the years of service. So anything that we can get them in addition to, they're generally very happy, and we're obviously very happy that we're able to do this for our clients.
Thank you. And then what is a common misconception about lawyers that you hear the most?
Well, I don't know about the misconception because I don't think people would tell me because I am a lawyer. Um, I don't. Well, the thing is, we here are here to help. Um, I just don't. I just want to make sure everybody who's seeking
Mhm.
legal advice knows that, right? Like if they, a lot of people don't know, especially in employment law, that there's such things as entitlements when you're terminated, right? Some people don't even know the term severance. They don't know what that is. They don't know anything like that. So we try to educate as much as possible, but I think the misconception is that we're trying to educate for our own purposes. But I think really we genuinely are trying to help people and make sure that they know that if a situation arises where you've been working there and you're terminated, that you have certain entitlements and certain rights that you should explore and make sure that you take advantage of these things.
Perfect. I think that's definitely something like there's, I think a lot of like lawyers are the bad guys or they're out to
Yeah,
make money and stuff like that.
right.
So it's really nice to hear like I think everyone needs to know that lawyers are on your side and they want to actually just help you make sure you get what you deserve, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, um, at the end of the day, we all have our own reasons for doing this. But for me, at least, and I know for sure on the employment side, when I call a client and I say, we were able to get X amount of increase in your severance package, to have them be thankful and to communicate how thankful they are to me, that within itself it was worth all the hardships and whatever else I went through for that file.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then what advice would you give to your younger self before attending law school?
Um, I would have told myself to go to law school earlier. I know there are options. I think they're not here, but if you go overseas, that you can go straight from high school.
Mhm.
So if I was at that point sure about going to law school, I would have told myself to go to law school earlier because I would have been further in my career then. Um, but that's only if I at that point I knew that I wanted to be a lawyer for sure, right?
Yeah,
Of course I didn't, but if I did, but I would definitely save some of the years and did that instead.
perfect. And then what advice would you give to the next generation of aspiring legal professionals?
Absolutely. This is a good question. So first and foremost, if you're certain that you want to be a lawyer, then I would say even before applying to law school, or whether you're in whatever stage, whether you're in high school, you're in the first year university, second year, third year, fourth year, whatever the case may be, try to volunteer. If you can't get a job in a law profession, try to volunteer, and try to volunteer in an area that allows you to explore different areas of law, because you will very early on see what you like and what you don't like. And it's not more so what you like, but it's, in my opinion, what's more important to know what you don't like, so then you can start crossing those off your list, right? Because once you get further down into now your law school studies, unless it's part of the curriculum in terms of your extracurricular courses and all of that stuff, now you can choose to now get more educated in these areas that you do enjoy. And then once you article, then you can explore this even further. So it's kind of like an effect. Once you start from early on, it helps you as you go down in your career, right? And whether it be in your educational or whether it be in your actual profession. If you don't make this decision early enough, which is not a bad thing. Let's say you're in your fourth year or you're just about to go to law school. Again, explore your options. You can still volunteer while you're in law school. And I would say for articling, it's very important. Try to say unless you're really focused on just one area. Let's say you just want to be a criminal lawyer and that's the only area you want to practice in. That's absolutely fine. But let's say you're unsure. I would suggest to someone that you should try to article in a firm that allows you to explore, a couple different areas. So again, you can see what you like and what you don't like. So that once you become a lawyer, you have a few different areas to choose from the 4 or 5 or whatever options that you had available to you.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that's definitely one of the most daunting parts of it is like, what fields you want to practice? I don't know. I don't know that much. I don't know that much about all of them, right? Like you only hear the main, like criminal law,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
And a personal story. And I mean, I'm first generation Canadian. I'm the eldest in my family and eldest in my uncles' families and all of that stuff. So I mean, for, first person to go to undergrad university here, first person to go to postgrad and all of that stuff. So you can imagine I had no guidance, no nothing. So I only knew of a few areas of law, right? Like you said, criminal, family, corporate and all of that stuff. I unfortunately never even heard of an employment lawyer because I never was around this type of conversation or these type of people, right? Had I known, I would have probably been in this area sooner. But like I said, I articled in criminal law. I decided it wasn't for me. Then my first year of practice, I was an associate at a predominantly family law firm. Decided that wasn't for me either. So then now I ended up in these areas. But like I said, things change. You realize what you like and what you don't like, and for me, it's what's more important what you don't like, because you don't want to come to work every day and not like what you do, especially in our profession where there is high accountability, high stress. The clients are very reliable on you. There's tight deadlines, a lot of things that are in place, and that's why we have the responsibility as we do as lawyers.
perfect. Thank you so much. I really took that in. I really needed that. Thank you.
Good, good.
That is everything today. That's all I have to ask you.
Perfect.
So I just want to thank you for coming.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you very much. It was very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Okay. Have a good night. Thank
Awesome. You
you.
too. Bye-bye.